my God. Guys, I just finished watching SummerSlam. Two major things came out of SummerSlam, and what a way that it ended. Jimmy USO, the same man who convinced Jey, who broke free from Roman first, who struck Roman first at Night of Champions after being frustrated from his manipulation, him bossing him around. The same man who convinced Jey to break free from Roman. The same man who told Jey they didn't need Roman anymore. They can go on their own. The same man who was a part of them beating Roman and Solo at Money in the Bank, who was taken out by Solo and Roman a few SmackDowns after Money in the Bank, has turned heel on his own brother, Jey USO, in the midst of being close to beating Roman at SummerSlam. Wow. You know, I gotta say, one thing about these Roman matches, they keep you guessing. This crazy to think how a story with the Bloodline's been going on now for roughly 3 years, and every single time they just keep finding something more fresh to come out of it. I mean, we all knew Roman was winning, but the expense of how it happened, I mean, you just didn't think it was going to go this way. And what's even more crazy about this is the fact that, they were teasing yet again, and they've been teasing it for several weeks now, dissension between Solo and Roman, the eventual breakup between Solo and Roman. So the fact that this even happens makes you question, why tease so much of Solo and Roman, dissension with them, slow burn. If you were gonna have Jimmy turn on Jey here, you like, where does this make Jimmy? Does he join back with Roman? I mean, because remember, it was, the SmackDown that Jey finally broke away from Roman was when he decided to choose his brother over Roman. They were trying to get Jey to be the one to turn on Jimmy, but Jey didn't do it. Jey instead, sided with Jimmy. And that's how we got to him breaking free from Roman, which eventually led to their match at, Money in the Bank. And, man, this was something, guys. I mean, the match, you know, as most Roman matches up to this point, first time defending the belt is Michael Cole even mentioned since SummerSlam, and kind of mentioned it was that going to have some type of effect on him since then. The match was pretty good. You know, a lot of trash talking about Roman as you would expect, but Kindle sticks was being used, steel chairs, the tables. You know, Jey actually managed to put the Samoan drop on Roman Reigns through a table. He actually hit Roman with the Kindle stick several times. He actually got one of those straps and hit Roman with it. And Roman's arm was actually bleeding, so you could tell those were some vicious, probably the craziest spot of the match when he hit him with those straps. The only weapon that he used that wasn't like the typical Kindle stick, just steel chair and tables, but yeah, this was just going all over the place before Solo got involved. Pretty, back and Roman was dominating for a bitter part of it with the clotheslines and the frequent attacks. At one point, Jey sat the chairs up only to get powerbombed to Roman through them, and it backfired. So it was pretty back and forth prior to Solo's interference. But by the time they got to the fans, that's when Solo got involved, and Roman was just kind of out of it, as most Roman's matches go. Once he's like out of it, somebody gets involved, and that's what happened here. And it was just back and forth. No, Jay had actually hit Roman with a splash earlier in the match, and Roman kicked out. And every time it looks like Roman is in the midst of losing. There's just always some shenanigans that happens at the last minute. Either he kicks out at the last breath or some type of shenanigans. And that's exactly what happened here. But prior to that, there was a point where Roman was trying to was trying to spear Jay, and you know they were going to do a double, the spike with the spear combination, the same thing they did at Money in the Bank that he kicked out of, but it backfired because he ended up spearing Solo. Solo wasn't happy about that. Eventually, Jay takes out Solo through the announce table the same way that he took out their brother Jimmy. And out of nowhere, it looks like Roman's vulnerable. It looks like he has nothing left, as most cases in Roman's matches, when it looks like he's about to lose, somebody gets involved. And, the way that this happened, though, when you consider the tension with Solo earlier, it was just very unexpected. I didn't think they were going to go this direction. I will say, being that Jimmy was the one who did the turn first on Roman, and we all thought it was going to be Jay with all the manipulation and stuff, to see that he's the one that does the turn on Jay and not Jay doing the turn on Jimmy, I could say that part I'm not surprised about, because even dating back to 3 years ago when this whole thing started, after all, it was Jay who quit that Hell in a Cell match specifically because Roman had him in the chokehold. So if you look at, in most cases, Jay has been the one that has kind of taken the fall for Jimmy in a lot of the occasions. And in that sense, I would say I'm not that surprised. But at the same time, that this is the first time we've really seen a twin turn on another twin since that. I guess some people liked it I guess some people weren't too big of fans of this, but when Nikki turned on her Brie Bella, that really didn't go far though, because before you know it, they were back together like within 2-3 months. I think they feuded for a while. They had a match where if Brie lost, she had to kind of like, I guess, be like Nikki's. I don't want to say her servant, but she had to like be something for Nikki, and so they didn't really last that long feuding. But this was completely different though. That's the last time I can remember any twin turn on another twin. So this kind of just came out of nowhere. And it's funny because when they were doing the manipulation trying to get Jay to join them, they were actually saying that Jimmy was the one that wasn't happy about him being picked up as the right hand man, and the fact that he wanted him to take over as a tribal chief eventually, but just not yet. And he looked at Jimmy. He was like, "This whole time you've been doubting me," and you could see Jimmy's face. So you start to wonder if that was kind of foreshadowed right there as to what would come eventually. But I'm curious to see. The one thing about this bloodline story, it's been going. It's crazy to think a story that's been going this long. They find ways to keep making it fresh and just have all types of craziness. You almost wonder, like, if the plan is to have, at least right now, the plan is still apparently to have Roman versus Cody again at WrestleMania unless something changes. I don't know how they're going to pull that off with the way this is going, because with the way this is going, it's just going all types of directions. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the definitive endpoint as to if Roman is or ever is going to drop that belt. And it seems like every time he's close to dropping it, whether it was Clash of the Castle last year when Solo got involved, when he first burst on the scene, there's just always something that will happen that will prevent him from dropping the belt. And we seen it at WrestleMania. Cody was about to hit him with 3 crossroads, and then Solo, who was ejected out of the ring early in the match, got back in the match and struck Cody with the spike and helped Roman win. Retain the belt. So it's like every time this man is close to dropping the belt, there's always some type of shenanigans that takes place in most of these matches, and it was no different here. But I think the way that the swerve took place, I think it was well done. I don't think too many people, although like I said, certain things may have foreshadowed this will happen, but it was crazy. I'm curious to see where they go with this. Elsewhere, the other big thing that happened was that Io Sky cashed in her Money in the Bank. I can't miss that. Big moment for her. I'm really happy for her. I do feel bad for Oscar though. It sucks that every title reign she's had, unfortunately, she's been kind of made as afterthought. You do wonder though, if they were gonna have Io Sky win here, why would they have her lose? On SmackDown, to Selena Vega in that mix. But regardless, I'm glad she got her moment. I just feel bad for Oscar though. But I guess the plan when you look at the way the match went and her cashing on Bianca, it all makes sense. At first, I thought Bianca was actually hurt. I didn't know if it was a work or not. But the way that they kept showing the camera, and I'm like, you know what, this must be a work. At first, I couldn't tell if it was a work or a shoot. She was selling to me. I thought, maybe she actually was hurt because the match was going pretty well. Her, Charlotte, Oscar, a lot of double moves. The double moonsault that Charlotte hit on them inside the ring. She had a moonsault on Bianca outside the ring. There was a spot when Bianca actually this was a pretty smooth transition here. So I think it was Bianca who hit something on Charlotte, and she got caught with a submission by Asuka. That was a pretty smooth transition. There was one point where Charlotte hit them both for natural selection. There was a point in the match where Bianca, when she got back in the ring after selling the knee, she hit the 450 on Charlotte when she had Asuka in the figure eight. There was one point that Charlotte tried to put them both in the figure eight, but that it didn't happen. They got out of it. So the match was just kind of when they were really starting to get going, because the fans weren't really too hot at first, maybe because of the fact that was they had just seen that Universal, well, not the Universal, but WWE World Title match with Seth and Finn, which I guess based off the way that match went, where Damien was trying to get Finn to use the briefcase to put it on Seth, but it was miscommunication that backfired on Finn's part for being upset with Damien about it. It makes sense, that they didn't do that cash in there as we all kind of thought that they would more than likely do, and instead they did it with Io here. I'm just, so when Bianca got back in the ring, I kind of knew something, when they kept showing the cameras, like, you know what, this has got to be a work. And then she got back in the ring, and she managed to pin the, and this is the part that I really felt really bad for Asuka, but she managed to pin Asuka, the actual champ, to win the belt, because Asuka blew the green mist in Charlotte, but then she actually, just as Asuka was going to get Charlotte, Bianca managed to pin her, win the women's world title for just a few minutes, but the selling the knee or the leg, it really led to it all added up for Io to cash in. So it seems that the reason they had Asuka lose here was because they didn't want to have, well, this is just me speculating. This is probably not the reason, but they didn't want to have Io cash in on Asuka, but instead, to cash in on, the actual champ. I mean, they didn't want her to cash in on Never Heal. Instead, they wanted her to cash in on Bianca. And when you think about it, when you consider the fact that it was last year that Io, basically had got called up, and Dakota Kai was rehired by Triple H, and Damage Control was formed at SummerSlam last year. right, and they came out right after Bianca retained the Raw Women's title at the time. It all comes full circle that it's Bianca that she ends up cashing in on a year later to win the title. So like I said, that the huge moment for Io Sky, it's just like I said, I just really feel bad for Oscar, because all her title reigns have pretty much been like an afterthought. She's never like the center focus. When she won the SmackDown Women's title at TLC 2018, the focus was more so on Becky and Charlotte's feud than it was about the actual person that won the match, Oscar. And even when she won it the second time, even when she won the Raw Women's title, the focus more kind of centered on Sasha Banks and Bailey. And then when she beat Sasha Banks to win the title back, because Sasha had beat her on Raw after Bailey had attacked Kairi Sane backstage, and she got distracted and lost by countout. But then she won the belt back at Summerslam. And she had a pretty lengthy reign, her second reign as Raw Women's Champion. But even that reign, unfortunately, she just didn't really have a lot of credible opponents. And, eventually she dropped the belt to Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 37. So, like I said, I don't know what it is with that. It seems like every title reign she has, they just don't, they just don't do a good job with her. So I hope with Io Sky, um, this is a big moment, but I do hope they actually give her a lengthy reign. I guess with all the dissension they got going on with various groups, uh, maybe this means that Damage Control are back on the same page because they've been kind of teasing Bailey and her kind of having a little bit of dissension, and they're already doing that with Judgment Day. So how many more groups do you need? They almost did that with Imperium too, when they were about to get Leonardo da Vinci kicked out had he lost. If Von Tel, what is the other guy's name? If he had lost to Matt Riddle, so uh, yeah, it just I don't know. Um, Maybe this means they're back on the same page again. I mean, Bailey was genuinely happy for her. She, Dakota Kai got in the ring, they all hugged. They let her have her moment, and you know, when you consider everything Bailey has done at this point, um, I'm just glad she got her moment. It wasn't really any turn with that. But yeah, these are the main two things I just want to come on here and talk about. Elsewhere on the show, though, you know, most of everything else to happen we kind of expected. I didn't get to actually see the Ricochet and Logan Paul match, but I saw the results that he won the match. That Logan got the win with brass knuckles onto Ricochet. Cody got the win on Brock, and it looks like Brock, I guess, turned back face because they hugged it out at the end and shook hands. Um, and also, uh, LA Knight won the Battle Royal, which was huge for him. He came down to LA Knight and Sheamus, and LA Knight actually got the win. So does this mean that we're finally getting that push that they were talking about for LA Knight? That remains to be seen. But he got the victory, so that was a huge moment for him. So yeah, it was a lot of you know, uh, a lot of other moments. Like I said, Shayna and Rana. Um, Shayna got the win on Rana. I thought it had a rough time in the beginning. For some, looking back on it, it kind of reminded me of when they used to do the Brawl for All thing. You know, the way that whole the way that actually ended up going, where some wrestlers actually got hurt. I mean, in this case, I was it was interesting to see this considering both their MMA backgrounds, and I just thought for a lot of the match, the crowd just wasn't really reacting as much up until like the later portions. And really, I was thinking like this is something similar to this, maybe not like in that particular way, but that's how they should have booked Brock and Bobby Lashley instead of the way they actually booked it with them just spamming finishers. Then maybe it would have went a lot better. But at the same time, I thought the match was okay. I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was bad, but I just think, I just think for the fans that maybe aren't really that used to MMA and stuff, it, for some of it they just weren't reacting as much uh, into like some of the later portions. Um, so yeah, I thought the match was okay. Maybe perhaps this is Ronda's last match. I'm not really sure. I know she wanted to put over her friend Shayna before leaving, because she was saying that she was going back to UFC. So yeah, so you had that whole thing. So yeah, um, and I already kind of touched on the Finn and Seth match. I do feel bad for Finn though. I mean, at this point, he's just not going to get another title shot. You just feel kind of bad for him. Uh, I mean, I think we all expected he wasn't going to win, but it would have been nice if he did. But then there was that tease that if he did win, that Damian Priest would cash in on him. So, you know, at this point, I just know that the group is going to implode by the time Raw comes. And I think somebody's getting booted out. More than likely Finn Balor at this point. I mean, he's pretty much the weak link. Let's face it. I mean, everybody else is holding gold or got something on them except for Finn. So you got that whole thing going on. But yeah, Jimmy USO turns on Jey, and Io Sky's the Money in the Bank winner. Really, really good SummerSlam overall. I really enjoyed it. So some people I kind of feel bad for, but I am curious to see what his bloodline story goes up to this point. So that's pretty much it, guys. Sign off for Mr. Flex, like, and subscribe to